know, I lived in Chula Vista for over 50 years, and I raised my family there, and got married in Chula Vista, and I've seen Chula Vista in its good days, and I've seen it in its worst days. And living in Southwest Chula Vista, I know that I do a lot of work there. I'm a retired firefighter, and as I look around today, and as I talk to the people, as I walk around and talk to the voters out there, the residents, there's one thing that we all agree on. And that's that today it appears that City Hall is paying more attention to East Lake and Otay Ranch, and they've kind of forgotten about us a little bit. And you know what, as a firefighter that's used to hard work, I'm gonna change that. And so my goal is to bring some representation back to City Hall and work for the people of the Southwest community. I'm not a politician. As I speak today, you'll see that I'm a little rough on the edges, but when I worked hard as a firefighter, we never had a choice to do
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Thank you. I just wanted to start by thanking the Chamber of Commerce, the PSIR, Southwestern College, and everyone involved in putting together this forum. Very important opportunity for the voters to get to know the candidates. I am running for this position because this is a part of Chula Vista that I've lived in most of my life, and it's an area that needs a lot of work, and I have the experience to do that work. And so I want to get to that business of that as soon as we can. Things are different now in Chula Vista. You've been in the past elected representatives that would represent citywide. Now it's an opportunity to represent a geographic area, a district, and so I relish that opportunity.
Why have you chosen to seek election to the Chula Vista City Council?
Again, being a long-term resident of Southwest Chula Vista, I see a lot of needs in Chula Vista, as some of the people before talked about. Our public safety, it needs a lot of help. Today in Chula Vista, most cities have one firefighter per 1,000 residents. In Chula Vista, we're down to 42. And I can tell you, as a 30-year veteran of the fire service, the longer you wait between the time you call 911 and the time you get help, whether police, fire, medical aids, the longer it's going to take you to recover from that. And so the point is, as a city council member, I'll make sure we fully fund that so that you don't have to pay it on the back end. Whether it takes you longer to recover, whether you're going to be eating out of a straw for the rest of your life because we didn't get there fast enough, whether your business bursts down so bad that you can't rebuild, you're going to pay for it one way or the other. I would rather choose it on the front end. And so I see that we need some help at Chula Vista, and I'm going to change those things. I'm going to work on infrastructure as well.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
I'm running for city council because this is a community, a part of Chula Vista that I've grown up in all my life, and feel a strong commitment to serve it. I've served it for many years, 45 years, as an adult in many capacities, and through many of those experiences, I think I'm the best qualified to tackle some of the problems that we face now in the future.
Please provide examples of your most notable efforts to support and cultivate local business and jobs.
Okay, as a resident, I'm not a career politician, so we got to make that clear to get Bill. So I've never served in public office. I am a citizen of Chula Vista, been there for 50 years. And so basically what I do to encourage economic development in Chula Vista is the first thing we need to do as citizens of Chula Vista is spend our dollars in Chula Vista. When I go out and buy a high-ticket item, whether a vehicle or whatever, I make sure that I buy that in Chula Vista. And what I want to do when I become a city council member is I want to make sure that our residents are able to work, live, play, and shop in Chula Vista, and that will benefit all of us well.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez.
Probably the most notable work with regards to jobs has been in the arena of the University and Research Center. I was part of the council that actually completed the transaction, put the deal together that exchanged entitlements and other benefits to developers who own land for the university land. We were able to acquire some 375 acres. That is probably going to be our biggest and best opportunity for jobs in South Lake and Chula Vista. In addition to that, one of the things that I did and worked a lot on in small ways and in big ways was kind of opening our perspective to the south, thinking about Mexico. Just geographically, it's it's going to have to be a big source of jobs, and building those relationships and working in that environment has been a couple of my biggest contributions.
How will you help the Chula Vista Bayfront development project become a near-term reality? And what would you say are some of the most significant obstacles to implementing the Bayfront plan?
That project needs to be done. We missed an opportunity years ago. Southwest Chula Vista needs the jobs. And so what I think makes me uniquely qualified is that I am able to reach across political lines and work together. If you look at my endorsements, I'm endorsed by former Senator Bill Morrow, John McCann, Democrats such as Olga Diaz, Patty Davis, and others. And so the reason they've endorsed me from a wide spectrum is because they know that I can reach across the aisle and build consensus. We cannot allow this project to fail. It is not an option. When, as a council member, I will work to reach out and build the consensus. And the last time we had labor issues, I have worked with labor, and I've also worked with business. And so I believe I'm uniquely qualified to bridge all those people together, get all the stakeholders together.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Mr. Ramirez.
Well, the work of bringing stakeholders together and working in that environment has passed. I was part of that, the Citizens Advisory Committee on Bayfront Development. This was before I was in public office. And while I was in public office, we were the council that actually entitled the Bayfront. So the plan is set. It's about the developers now and the people who are working at the port level. I think the city of Chula Vista and the Port of San Diego have been working miraculously well for the last 6-8 years. Part of the work that I and some of my colleagues on the council were doing, part of it was getting the right people in place. And we've done that in a couple of cases, our port commissioners and those appointments. And so working with those developers, making sure that we understand the incentives that they're going to need and making sure that we can put together the right deal for those folks is what we need to do in the future.
Yes, Mr. Ramirez, what has been the impact of the cost recovery program on city revenues?
Well, in some ways, it has been obstacles to development and to growth. In other ways, it's been a way of protecting the general fund and making sure that we're able to fund the services that we are responsible for providing, public safety in particular. And so I understand the question. You have to be careful. You need to be able to provide the right incentives for economic development in a lot of cases, and so it's a two-edged sword. You have to be careful of making sure that those people who are requiring services from the city pay their fair share and pay what it costs. At the same time, the city has objectives and can, in some cases, choose to subsidize different programs in order to achieve certain goals. And so it's about what we're trying to achieve and how much we're really willing to give up for that.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Mr. Diaz.
I don't favor it. I don't favor it. You look at this, and it's just another way of local government putting their monies in your hands, in your pockets. And so I don't know that we can just totally wean them off of that, but I would ratchet it down. And one of the questions we may be asked tonight is, why is it that Chula Vista is one of the lowest tax generating cities in the area? Well, when you scare people away with policies such as this, we're not going to bring good business in. My goal as a city council member is to create a culture where business wants to work with the city of Chula Vista, where we can attract good business, provide good jobs to our citizens, and so we can allow them again to be able to live, play, work, and spend money in Chula Vista.
Mr. Ramirez, what is your vision and plan for encouraging new development in eastern Chula Vista?
You know, I'm not sure it's necessary to encourage development in eastern Chula Vista. There's a lot of development going on in eastern Chula Vista. It's really about encouraging the right mix of development and making sure that the development that does occur is sustainable over the long term. Part of that is making that development financially sustainable through by making retail sales more successful in in Eastern Chula Vista and throughout Chula Vista. That's one way that we'll be able to pay for the ongoing costs of public services.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Well, I believe that as we get new projects into Eastern Chula Vista, we need to make sure that we do it correctly. I think we need to start encouraging businesses to maybe, as we get new business in, we need to maybe allow them to, for example, took my tongue here, use more reclaimed water, right? Things like that. Just be smarter about it. We do need business. We need to be able to encourage business, high-tech business we need in Chula Vista. We really don't have any high-tech, right? So I would work very hard to, again, make it a change the culture, be business-friendly, work with some of these companies and start bringing high-tech companies in. We have to think a bit in the library now. We need to start working on our young people, such as these folks right here, so that we can get them ready for those jobs, and then we can bring them into anywhere in Chula Vista, not just East Chula Vista, Southwest, but we need good paying jobs.
According to data from the 2016 point-in-time count developed by the Regional Task Force on the Homeless, out of about 8,700 homeless, some 500 of them are in Chula Vista. What actions would you take to better address and support the homeless population in our city, or in Chula Vista?
Thank you. Well, I've been involved in the homeless issue for a number of years now. I'm a member of the South Bay Homeless Advocacy Coalition. I've been working with them. I've in fact written a plan for dealing with homelessness in Chula Vista. It's a two-part plan, one that addresses the humanitarian needs of people, and at the same time, the second part is where we address the issues and the impacts to a community of a homeless population. They both have to work, they both go in hand in hand. I mean, the plan is extensive. In a minute, it's hard to hit it. One of the key features is that we're going to have a position that we've already created, but it's going to have to be structured differently. I see homelessness as a public health issue and not necessarily always a law enforcement issue, and we need to be able to begin to treat it that way.
Yeah, the homeless is a big issue, and I think that what we need to do is work on the mental health side. That is a huge problem in that population. We also need to make sure we start working on temporary housing. But it's such a big problem, it's a regional problem. About 2 cents of every 1 year, the 8 cents that you pay in property taxes goes to the county for public health and mental health services. So the county needs to take a huge role in this position. The way we fight big fires in the state of California is we have a unified command. Not only that, but we have a unified action plan so that everybody that's fighting those fires or disasters knows what's going on. I don't believe we have that in San Diego County. We have religious groups or communities, we have nonprofits, we have local government, county, state, all working on this. And I don't know that we're all working on the same sheet of music here. And so what I would do is work to collaborate and get some collaboration with all those folks.
Thank
we can
you.
put that fire out.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
What are some of your ideas to make Chula Vista a more robust tourism destination?
Well, the one thing that I would not do or would have done would be to defund the tourism marketing district. My opponent defunded that, and we saw the results of that. And so what I would do is I would make sure that we fund that. And when we do so, we need to make sure there's accountability. We need to make sure that whoever does that, whether it's a chamber, that we make sure that the taxpayers get a good return on that investment. And so that's something that I would do. I would reinstitute that and to make sure that we get tourism into the city of Chula Vista. We have some great facilities. All we need to do is just let people know that they're.
We do need a tourism and marketing district, and one of the ways we could spend some of that money, I think, in a way that Chula Vista is uniquely qualified, is through amateur sports. We have an Olympic training center. We host a number of events in Chula Vista year-round. We're a perfect location for a lot of those kinds of events. I've participated in. I've held events of my own. The International Friendship Games that draws people. When you think about it, you talk to some of the local hoteliers and some of the projects that bring them more overnight stays. are those kinds of projects. We're, I think, uniquely qualified. We ought to exploit that. I mean, we are the home of the Little League champions, and we continuously do well. We have a number of fields. We have the basic infrastructure to do really well in that arena.
Mike, what do you consider to be the major public infrastructure needs in the city of Chula Vista? How should these infrastructure needs be addressed and funded?
Well, we have a tremendous need in infrastructure, especially in southwest Chula Vista. We have potholes that have been around for 8 or plus years. We have our public safety. You go to fire station number 5. I don't even want to use the term that most people call that fire station here. It's horrible. I can't believe our firefighters, that our elected officials are allowing firefighters to live in places like that. So I think we need a lot of help. We need to make sure that our police and fire have the right equipment. And I can tell you that when you have fire engines breaking down en route to calls, that's a big problem. Like I said, I've been doing it for 30 years, and I can tell you that every second that takes by, that person, it seems like an eternity. A lot of times when you get there, it takes 3 minutes to get there, they'll tell you it's been a half an hour. We can't allow that. We gotta build our infrastructure. We gotta make sure that we also get ahead of our water and sewer.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Mr. Ramirez.
We do have an infrastructure problem, and especially in Chula Vista. A lot of our city facilities are aging and need repair. We have missing infrastructure, we have missing sidewalks. We have a second part of the infrastructure is the maintenance side. And not only are we very deficient in the district, it's now citywide, and even some of the new neighborhoods that are now 25, getting on, say 20 years old, that are beginning to show signs. And so we're going to, it's a major challenge, both the missing infrastructure in Southwest Chula Vista and infrastructure maintenance. And it's going to have to be a financial model that is more sustainable in our city. And I know you're going to have some questions on that in a bit, so we'll do that.
Mr. Diaz, as we all know, Chula Vista is one of the most desirable, fastest growing bedroom communities in the region. We have a robust, diverse, well-educated workforce, but have not been able to attract sufficient, well-paying technical and professional jobs to allow our residents to find employment within Chula Vista. How would you expand and attract high-paying, high-tech, and professional jobs within the city?
Well, the first thing we need to do is creating a business-friendly environment in Chula Vista, so that when people look around, they look at it and go, that's where we want to go with Chula Vista. They're business-friendly. When people start up a business, it costs them a lot of money. And the longer it takes for them to get that business up and going, the more the cost. And so maybe they have a better option in another city. So the first thing we need to do is change that culture. With regards to high tech, I spend a lot of time with after-school programs with kids, teaching them how to do exactly those skills that we need to do at Sweetwater High School, whether it's computer-aided drafting, computer-aided manufacturing, those things with 3D lasers, CNC machines, those kind of things. We need to get our kids involved in those so that when we do get those businesses here, the people that live in Chula Vista can enjoy those jobs. And that's my goal when I become city council.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Mr. Ramirez.
We need to have space for them. I mean, we in the city of Chula Vista, we studied the problem. We were wondering, what is it? What's it going to take? And one of the biggest obstacles we have is that we don't have space that's readily available for them to get going and start their enterprise. When a company decides, a large employer decides to come to a city, one of the most important things for them is to be able to hit the ground running. They need to be able to be operational in a year and a half. And we need to be able to have land available, shovel ready to go, so that large employers can move quickly. We also need to go out, we need to target industries. We need to understand, and we do in large part, where we're uniquely qualified, just because of our geography, because of who we are, where we are, and we need to chase those industries aggressively.
Rudy, the Chula Vista Elementary School system has been nationally recognized for a host of innovations. What are your plans for partnering with and enhancing the elementary education district?
Well, as you know, the elementary school district is outside the jurisdiction of the city Chula Vista, but there's some overlap in some of the programs that we have, for example, through our rec department, through the many fields that we control, parks and so forth, where we can work with school districts on programming. There's also another, I think, very unique opportunity with a lot of the daycare centers that exist, especially in my district. I think there's an opportunity to work with these daycare centers in a way that help them, help the people they serve be better prepared for elementary school, kindergarten, and preschool at the elementary school district.
Thank you. Mr. Diaz.
Yes, what I think we need to do is partner with the school districts. We can do that. We have resources that are available that maybe they do not have, and I think we should do that. We just did at the library. We got the link of it going there with Qualcomm, teaching kids, high-tech skills that people are going to need. So I believe that working with the school district and our parks and recs, we can accomplish that. And again, I think it's just working together, creating people from industry, getting people from industry, from the schools, Chula Vista. We come up with a program that allows our students to learn the skills and to prepare them for career or college.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
If elected, how would you make Chula Vista a developer / business-friendly city?
Well, I think one of the things that developers and business want really is a fair shake. I mean, they realize that they need to pay their fair share of whatever services they're going to be tapping into. They also realize that they're going to have to cover the costs of their developments, and they want a fair shake. They want the ability of staff to move quickly. They want to be able to get their documents and permits in, and have staff turn it around quickly. When I was on the city council, I developed the lean program where we look at processes. This was something that was borrowed from a local, Goodrich company, and looked at their manufacturing process and borrowed some of their techniques to improve efficiencies in the way our own city staff works. And that's what they want. They want a fair shake. They want things turned around quickly, and I'll just continue the work that we've done in that regard with Chula Vista.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
What I've been saying time and time again is that we do need to be business friendly. With regards to developers, we'll talk about housing for a second. People say that they need to cover the cost, and when I get elected to city council, is with regards to developing housing, I will never use the word developer fee. I know that I've been in meetings with folks in cities over my years where they say, let's let the developer pay for it. You know what? When I become city council member, I will never use that term. The term I will use, though, is a consumer fee. Because if anybody thinks a developer is going to cover that cost, that's not really accurate. That is passed through to the consumer. And so what happens is, when somebody wants to buy a home, we know that 40% of that cost of the home is regulatory cost. If I could discount your first home purchase, let's say a condo from $300,000 to $280,000 to $200,000, you could afford that. We have it totally upside down. What's happening is we are.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Maris.
Rudy, per capita income within the city of Chula Vista varies widely from some of the most wealthy regional neighborhoods in the east to neighborhoods on the west side with over 21% of the families living below the poverty rate. What can be done to enhance economic conditions in western Chula Vista?
Well, I think one of the ways is going to be through infrastructure. I've seen it happen. I was on the council and was part of the team that brought more sidewalks to western Chula Vista than any other time in the history of Chula Vista. And I've seen those neighborhoods transform. All of a sudden, people start taking care of their yard a little better, property values increase, and a whole assortment of benefits, including health benefits, begin to occur in these neighborhoods. And so I think one of the things we need to do is be creative about where and how we more of that. I think there might be opportunities for that in the future, given a new administration in the federal government.
Mr. Diaz.
I believe the plan that I would use, first of all, is we need to clean it up. When you have Southwest Chula Vista has a lot of crime in it. You're not gonna attract people to start up new business if they know that their business is gonna be broken into. You're not gonna get a community to thrive if they think they can't walk outside without being in mud. First thing we need to do is create a proactive police force. Right now in Chula Vista, when a crime happens, you dial 911, it's already too late. We need to be proactive. We need to get the crime out of the way before it even happens. Then we need to work on some infrastructure. Infrastructure improvements, we fix it up so that when people look at that, they want to bring their businesses into Southwest Chula Vista. And then we also need to work to provide incentives for those businesses. We have a lot of hardworking people in Southwest Chula Vista that want to be able to have their own business. But you know what? At City Hall, when they go to City Hall, that's where the dreams of entrepreneurs go to die. And so we need to change that. And as a council member, I'll do that.
Now that the state has eliminated redevelopment agencies, do you believe that it is appropriate for the city to provide economic incentives for businesses and property owners to redevelop?
Yes, I do. So RDAs were really, the reason they were disbanded is because they were the slush fund for career politicians. And they would spend it on their pet projects and never really helped, in my opinion, the communities. And it wasn't very, very transparent. I can tell you as a firefighter, fighting for resources, that's where most city managers were hiding money. And so I certainly approve the disbanding of RDAs. I believe that we do need to provide incentives for business, but we need to do it in a way that is smart, in a way that will return its investment back to the community.
Mr. Ramirez.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. The ability for municipalities to use incentives for the sorts of things that it wants that will bring and pay dividends in the future, I think is an important tool that the municipalities need to use. Now, this isn't about giving away public resources, but given the right conditions, we should be able to do that for jobs, for example, for industry that might bring additional tax revenues, for retail, for better retail, for a whole host of opportunities that a city might encounter. It would be appropriate to use incentives.
Question for Mr. Diaz, please.
Mr. Diaz, homeowners improve and invest in their neighborhoods. They help build strong communities, but buying a home in Chula Vista is expensive. Why is buying a home so expensive, and what would you do as a council member to help stabilize prices for future generations?
All right, so we already talked about the term developer fees and consumer fees, and so you already know where I'm there. The other thing what we need to understand is that regulation is also a big killer of people being able to own a home in the whole region. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure that we start shifting away some of those fees that are charged, that are passed on to you. You're gonna wanna buy a home, you can't afford it because 40% of that home, that cost of a new home is regulatory fees. We need to undo that. We need to tip that upside down where, listen, if we reduce the regulation by 3%, we can get 6,700 more people in San Diego County into a new home. So we need to make sure that we work smart, and when I save you that money, by the way, that's money that's in your pocket that you will be able to spend in Chula Vista, again, creating new jobs, hiring other people, and it's a multiplier. So I think at the end of the day, it's a good thing to be able to shift.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Mr. Ramirez.
Yeah, any opportunity that we have for reducing fees and making development homes less expensive, I think we should do. We still want to pay for the fire department. We still want to pay for some of these services, and so you have to be careful about what you're going to give back, and someone's going to have to pay for it. And so it's a matter of when you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it up front, or you're going to pay for it on the tail end. There's no such thing as a free lunch, and so you have to be careful about the sort of the gimmicks that might be involved.
building dense and tall multifamily homes near mass transit?
Yes, I do, generally speaking, okay? So what we need to be careful though is where are we doing that? In some communities, you want to maintain the character of the community. It may not be a good idea, but if it makes sense, I'm willing to do that. The infrastructure is already going to be there. You have the sewer, water, and other resources that are available. And I would favor it if it doesn't impact traffic or things like that. So there are specific places where we can do that. Main Street, 3rd Avenue are probably some good candidates in Southwest Chula Vista.
Yeah, some density in the right place, in transit corridors, around trolley stations is an appropriate place to build additional density. That's really where you want to do it. That's in line with all the thinking regionally about how you deal with traffic. It's another way that you address the affordability issue. When you're able to build that way, it just makes it more affordable. It makes it more affordable to provide services to that kind of development. And so there are a whole host of environmental benefits to building density. You have to be careful about where you're doing it and how you're doing it. You have to be careful to represent or to maintain some community character. I think that we've lost some opportunities in not being sure of protecting stable residential neighborhoods in the past. I think we could probably do a better job of that. At the same time, we redevelop and allow some urban development, especially in Western Chula Vista.
Now, what measures would you take to support and expand the Smart City Initiative?
Well, that's currently a staff-driven program with the City of Chula Vista. We want to support it where it makes sense, where we can see that those investments are actually investments. In other words, that there's a payoff, that we are going to see some benefits in the future that is either going to save revenues or going to make quality of life better. So we have to be careful. I mean, technology can do a lot, but it can't do everything. And I would just be cautious in going too far down the road in any area without first testing. I like pilot projects. I like small scale trials and to see if some of this stuff pans out. If it does, expand it. But they should be truly investments and not just kind of a gimmicky thing that we think is going to make life easier, because it may or may not.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Rudy, we agree on something. So, absolutely, he's totally correct on that. I totally agree with what he said. We do need to look into smart cities, some technologies, but I just fear the overreach of government, and I don't want that to happen. But I'll tell you, there's times where, and we've all done this, probably thought about it, and I'd ask you to raise your hands, but you probably were not going to admit it like I would. But we've been at that red light where we sit there for 3 or 4 minutes, and nobody's around, right? And what do? Look around. Any cops? Maybe I'm going to go right now, right? So the worst time a car pollutes is when just sitting there at that red light and you're thinking you want to run it. So the smart technologies will make our lives better. It will reduce the carbon footprint. But like Mr. Ramirez said, we just need to be careful how we use it, and just just use some common sense as we kind of tread into these new waters.
Thank you.
Where in the process is the 4-year university project? Do you see the university operating with a binational emphasis?
The land has finally been acquired. We acquired it 3-4 years ago. I mean, people have been talking about the university and research center for many years. We were able to put it together during the middle of my last term in office. It's currently where we're looking for a developer. We're looking for an institution who will take it. Given our geography, I think that it's obvious that it will have something to do with the fact that we're at an international border, that we border Mexico. It's hard to imagine that much else would work. And I don't know if this is a Mexican institution necessarily. It could be an American institution that focuses on international trade and commerce, or a whole host of other issues that have to do with living on a border. So I think that there's an opportunity there.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, I think that when you look at 4-year universities, where's the next closest one, right? 94 is the closest one from us. And so we need something down in the South Bay area. I think it's a great project. Yeah, it's gonna take some time to do, but we need that. And, you know, I mean, being a binational is great. Listen, I was born in Mexico, and I came to the United States. I studied hard and became a very productive citizen. I see nothing wrong with that. I think we should embrace that process.
Mr. Ramirez, what additional measures would you advocate to improve the cleanliness of our streets and reduce littering?
Yeah, it's something that we definitely needs to be addressed. We have a lot of that. I think, you know, really a lot of it has to do with infrastructure, believe it or not. I mean, if you take a walk down along those areas on 2nd Avenue in Oxford, where we did new sidewalks, you see a noticeable difference. It's very hard to sweep a street that doesn't have a curb and gutter. And so we need to do a fair amount of that. A lot of it also has to do with just our own behavior and how we, you know, how we deal with ourselves. I mean, I for one, when I walk my dog, I'm out picking up trash. I'm doing that. I'm an example to people around me. I think that in a lot of neighborhoods that are very unstable, neighborhoods where they're lacking a lot of services, lacking a lot of infrastructure, it's easier to throw the trash as opposed to putting it in the right place. And so there's a lot of work that the city of Chula Vista could do in that regard.
Mr. Diaz.
Absolutely, street sweeping is a big deal. I think we need to get our streets swept. I know they used to be swept in a much greater frequency, and today, unfortunately, because we want to cut the funding, the street sweepers only come once a month now, where they used to come more frequently. And so, so I think we need to reinstitute that. I think when people see their neighborhoods are clean, they love taking more ownership in it and helping to propagate that cleanliness. And so I think it's really, really important to do that. We also need to make sure that code enforcement gets into that process as they do. I love the new Chula Vista Act thing where we can snap pictures, the community get involved and take ownership in their own little neighborhoods so that we can clean up the neighborhoods.
Thank you.
What measures would you advocate to enhance our water independence, including implementation of sustainable water policies and cultivation of better regional water sources?
Well, I would really encourage new business and development to use reclaimed water. We need to expand that system so that we're not so much dependent on the fresh water. So I would want to work on that. The other thing too is, hold on, can you repeat the question? Can you repeat that?
What measures would you advocate to enhance our water independence, including
Thank you.
implementation?
So we talked about the reclaimed water. The other problem that we have is that we don't have storage. So at a state level, regional level, we need to start working to get funding for more storage for water.
Go ahead, Mr. Ramirez.
Yeah, certainly, water reclamation is a big part of it. Stormwater runoff. I think there's opportunities as environmental concerns affect cities more, and where cities are required to respond in a more aggressive way. I think there might be an opportunity for capturing that source of water. I think we need to be able to explore a whole variety of sources for reliability, and we need to continue along the path of conservation. Conservation is probably the single most important thing we can do to ensure our water supply. And then once we have it, we need to make sure that we use it efficiently.
Do you support the use of project labor agreement on public projects?
No, I believe that competition is good. Although, you know, we're going to have some opportunities here. We're going to be working on some big projects, and that's where I think maybe, you know, maybe we need to work on with labor on that. So generally speaking, I don't agree with it. The waterfront project is something that has to get done, and I will work with labor and the developers to make sure that that project happens. And whether we need to, you know, swallow some pride, I'm willing to do that, so long as that project gets done. But generally speaking, I don't support it.
Mr. Ramirez.
Yes, I would support Project Labor Agreement, especially for a project like our Chula Vista Bayfront. And, you know, we spoke about that earlier, how we were able to bring a diverse group of people together for that project. That's the sort of thing that we need to be able to do in order to make things happen. Coastal development is also very complicated. And so I think that there are also some opportunities for small-time contractors to participate in some public works projects. Many of those contractors live in my district, and I would support some of that local hire.
Do you support the proposed Chula Vista sales tax increase?
I'm on the record of opposing that. I think Chula Vista right now, you know, we do need money, but I don't know that it's a funding issue that we have. I think it's more of a spending issue. And so, anytime you give a government a blank check, they're going to spend it on whatever. I would certainly favor more of a bond where it's spelled out on what it's going to be spent on, so that the voters understand exactly where every dime is going to be spent. And I could favor that. And you know, we look around today, and there is infrastructure issues, but I think what we need to do is sharpen the pencils, tighten up, prioritize our spending, and I think we can find the money to solve some of those critical issues.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez.
No, I don't support the sales tax issue, not because we don't need the funding. The infrastructure deficiencies that we have, especially in District 4, are great, and finding resources and revenues to address all of those is going to be tough. I think there are some unique opportunities for us, and we're going to chase those. But it's a regressive tax. It's going to make our retail less competitive. We need competitive retail. One of the biggest problems we have is not enough Chula Vistans shop in Chula Vista. If we were just shopping and spending money as like a county average, as cities across the county average, we would have enough to pay for some of these services and maintenance issues that we need to do. That's a fundamental land use issue. It's something that we need to address and fix, and that's the avenue that I would go down for new revenue. It's my honor really to be here and to be a part of this exercise. I feel that I'm the most qualified candidate because I have the experience of having worked at City Hall for 8 years. Plus, I have a lifelong commitment to this part of Chula Vista. I was a businessman there for 30 years. In my time, we worked on a lot of issues that really made a difference in Southwest Chula Vista and citywide. And I want to continue to do some of that work. It's really easy to talk about things that you're going to be able to do. You have to pay for them, and I know how to do that. I know how to find that balance. I was part of a council that went through the most difficult economic times in the history. Many cities went bankrupt. We did pension reform. We improved city efficiencies, and still provided a level of service that many Chula Vistans appreciate.
Mr. Diaz.
I want to thank everybody for coming and listening to us, and I just want to finish by saying that, you know, clearly I'm not the most polished person. I'm a firefighter. We say what we mean what we say, and we're not really so kind of clean on the edges. But I'm a lifelong citizen of Chula Vista. I've served my community for over 30 years, and I'm now teaching high school kids how to be firefighters, and I want to give back to Chula Vista. Chula Vista is my home. And so I'm not a career politician, I'll tell you that right now, and I don't have no plans. I know my opponent has chased a lot of career opportunities in the political arena, but I'm going to pledge right here today that if I get elected, when I get termed out, I will never seek re-election to that seat, period. Mike Diaz is not a career politician. I'm a resident that wants to help Chula Vista be better.
Thank you very much. How about a round of applause for our candidates?